Hi, my name is Ishmael and today we're going to be talking about landlord types and tenants and how they relate to each other. So according to recent surveys done by Better Rent in Scotland, since 3 years ago when private rental sector became a big thing according to the property redress scheme, they have been studying exactly what impact this has had and what tenants actually think about it. So the surveys done have come to the conclusion that when you are a small scale or so-called cottage landlord with 1 or 2 properties or a very small portfolio of properties, the tenants prefer these landlords. Not only do they prefer these landlords, they generally prefer private landlords anywhere in the country, regardless of whether it's in Scotland or in England, Wales, it doesn't matter. Private landlords are a preferred choice than renting off the government. On top of that, they prefer the smaller scale landlords over the larger scale landlords. So if you have under 3 properties, they prefer you. Now the reason being is you have generally you're self-managed, and they prefer self-management because they can speak to the person. They generally look after the property better, and they generally look after the tenant better, and they have a better tenant-landlord relationship. And these tenant-landlord relationships mean that the tenants generally stay up to 6 months longer on average in small-scale landlord properties over larger-scale portfolio landlords or agency properties. So when an agent is managing it. So this means you need to find an extremely good estate agent or manage it yourself. Now obviously we want to make this a passive income. So we don't want to manage it ourselves, so we have to find an extremely good estate agent. How to find an extremely good estate agent for rentals is in another video. So the reason they prefer the small scale landlords is obviously we look after the tenant a lot better and they can relate. They also have found that small scale landlords stick to the laws better, and therefore the properties are actually up to the legal standards, as opposed to portfolio landlords which generally let some of their properties fall below the legal standards, not necessarily on purpose, but just because they don't go out regularly and manage the properties and actually check that the property is still up to standard, and your tenants don't feel like they can necessarily approach the agent or they can necessarily approach the large scale landlord, as opposed to dealing with a small scale landlord. Now according to the studies also, small scale landlords are actually 2/3 of them are actually thinking about leaving the buy-to-let sector, and the reason being is that the recent tax changes under Section 24 tax changes, where if you own a property in your own name and not in a company name, you're going to be having to pay larger tax and you can't offset your mortgage against your taxes. Exactly details on this you can find in another video of mine on Section 24 tax. So if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, whack that bell notification icon to get notified of videos coming out each and every week.